what part of that rule is also is that the reports, companies, it's their first fiscal year that they have to look and start gathering the data on, and then report, at the end of their first fiscal year after the rules come into existence. So, whether the rules come out in May or July, the first fiscal year, a lot of companies have January 1st is when their fiscal year starts. So it doesn't really matter when the rules come out. Starting January 1st, they have to really start tracking where all their minerals are coming from, and so that at the end of that year, they'll be able to put out a report saying, okay, we did all our due diligence, we did all our research, this is, what the situation is. So the groups that I had mentioned earlier in regards to agreeing to consensus and comments and recommendations to the Security and Exchange Commission, we had 7 corporations, 8 NGOs, and 9 investors who signed on to that document. And although it was, we worked closely with the IT and telecommunications industries, we also had Ford Motor Company and Medtronic, who's a big medical device manufacturer, as well as GE. And so we're really trying to say, okay, what are the concerns, and can we get an agreement, multi-industry agreement, to how due diligence should be laid out, how country of origin, inquiry should be implemented. So a couple of lessons learned for us is that consensus isn't easy. Really, I think we spent at least 50 hours on the phone together and post November and another 50 hours since the beginning of the year. But what was pretty interesting, I think, was that we had people on the phone who really know supply chain, and as well as some lawyers, so they knew, more from the SEC perspective, how to word things. So we had really good people who knew the issue, who were also dedicated to reaching agreement on the phone together. And the SEC, in their draft rules, they actually referenced our multi-stakeholder document 7 times, which was more than any other group. And of all the other groups that submitted comments to them, and you can go to the SEC website and see all the comments that were submitted, both from the, they have like lots of manufacturer associations, as well as a lot of human rights groups. So you have like the whole spectrum of people who are like, oh, we shouldn't have to do anything, and people are like, yeah, you really have to do a lot. So, we were trying to find something in the middle. But we're the only really diverse multi-stakeholder group. So other people who gave comments, it would have been like a group of companies or groups of NGOs, whereas we had both the companies and the NGOs and the investors all, in agreement together. And we have built a lot of respect for each other and really understood each other's perspectives and points of view. I think the other thing that the SEC really acknowledges is they don't have the expertise in this area. They're not supply chain, experts at all, and so they're really looking to comments from the industry and from others. And I know other conversations have even happened, and recommendations have been said. And if a company gives a recommendation, the SEC is like, oh, well, what's the NGO think? Are they in agreement with this, and vice versa. So. I had already gone through, I think, a little bit, too, of how we're able to reach agreement, on a certain bulk of issues, and not on absolutely every issue. And that helped us actually create something that we could submit together. All right, there's some information. So I know we don't have a ton of time for questions, but I guess we have a little bit. Yeah, Ben.
There's been a bit in the media about the regulations creating a de facto embargo in the DRC, and I don't think anybody here is interested in doing that. Maybe you could give us a bit of the industry's insight into how they're trying to prevent this from happening. And second, if you could talk about where the smelter program is right now, and kind of the timeline of what to expect as far as reporting, how many smelters are being audited at present, and how effective that evaluation process is.
That's the one question that is the hard question, so thanks. I'm going to answer it in two parts. As HP, we are not interested in creating a ban of materials coming out of the DRC from good places and never have been. And that's why we've chosen to invest at every stage of that, three-stage process, because there is no point in us demanding good material if the systems for defining good material don't exist. The industry as a whole is right now really struggling and working diligently with other stakeholders to strike that balance of aggressively trying to push the actors in this problem to create change, and at the same time not push too aggressively that we cause economic disruption in the region and essentially ban any materials that are from the DRC as a whole coming in. I don't know if we're exactly there yet, but the spirit of what we want to get to is to maintain a strong push without having that impact. And I think initially we didn't appreciate how effective our process was going to be and the knock-on effect that it would have. And so right now we're working in this continued way with the stakeholders to really make sure that we don't cause that de facto ban. However, I would say at some point we don't want to wait forever for the systems to be created, because there's too much impact, too much egregious impact. So at some point the rubber has to hit the road, but we want to do that in consensus with advisors in the ground, political and NGOs, to make sure we move at the right time.
In regards to timing, also just to let you know, because the April 1st was the date, and there's been some media out there about the ban happening starting April 1st. Well, where'd that date come from? Because that's nothing the SEC is saying or that type of thing. But industry has done the research, and they know it takes about 9 months from time of from the ore leaving the mine to get into the product. So as I had mentioned, where it starts the first fiscal year after the rules come out, that's January 1st. So if you count back 9 months, that's April 1st. So if companies really want to be able to say that they don't have conflict minerals in their supply chain, which are certified conflict-free, even if they're coming from the region, they can't do that yet. And for them to ensure that they have conflict-free products, coming, or mineral or products that don't have non-conflict free, then that's where it comes from. So I just wanted to make that clear, because I don't know if that was clear for everybody.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then just coming back on the conflict smelter program, yes, conflict-free smelter program is good. It's a number of smelting facilities have been through, especially tantalum, have been through the process. And more will, and a number of tin, I think, also have, at least through the pilots of the process. And the results are due to be published later this month. And so it's really now, the time is now that we're going to start to see those companies that are able to prove to us that their sourcing processes are legitimate. And so we come to you at a very pertinent time in the development of this issue for the industry.
Yeah, and I'm on that stakeholder group, and somebody, one of David's colleagues as well, coming up. And so the intention is to have a public list of conflict-free smelters. So my understanding, yes, is tantalum is supposed to be this month. And then tin and tungsten are going to be later this year. And gold is the last one that they really have not had the opportunity to move on that much, so that they're doing the pilot audits of those smelters. With the tin and tungsten now, they're doing the pilots, but the smelters actually have gone through some audits for tantalum. So tantalum will be the first list that comes in.